Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome on this very warm October day. That was very kind. So we are now in the 5th module. Seems like just yesterday we started, huh? We've covered a lot of territory, a lot of ground. But actually, this is just the beginning. This is actually setting us up to now start to embark upon our study of the Bhagavad Gita. And that is what will continue. And then many of you are asking, what's next? What's next? That is what's next. This is really just the foundation. We have built a very nice overview of these topics, and now we're going to go systematically into them in more detail, following the talk track that Krishna has in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So look forward to this journey with all of you. So last time we talked about the laws of karma and how the laws of karma are very exacting. Action equals reaction. Good action, good reaction. Bad action, bad reaction. And because of the laws of karma, we should be very thoughtful about our activities. You know, we cannot just, I'll do what I want. We have the right to, but with that comes the responsibility of the reactions. And so by understanding that, we can make good decisions about what activities are best for us. And at the end of the day, that is really the art of spiritual life. It's the art of all education. Right? We want to know what are good decisions to make in our life that will yield good outcomes. Because anybody woke up today wanting to be unhappy? You all thought I forgot to ask, right? It doesn't happen. So what decisions can we make to find that real everlasting happiness? So today, I'm very excited because we get to put all of our knowledge into reality, into practice. Because otherwise, it's just theory, interesting information. But what is it that we can begin doing tomorrow that can start us on this journey towards this perfection of life? And how we can very practically do that. So this application in a practical way is what we're going to discuss today. So my goal is that by the end of the session, you'll know exactly what to do starting tomorrow. Now you won't have all the answers. That will continue to fill in the blanks. But you'll have a clear 4-part, A, B, C, D. 4 things we can do to be in a spiritually centered life. And then, of course, we'll start to fill those in. But that's the thing. So all this theoretical knowledge, we're now going to put in practice. So let us do a quick review. So we all said our underlying goal was to be happy. Nobody's goal has changed since the beginning? Okay. So we all have the same goal, to find happiness. And the only question is how to find it. And we all wanted a particular type of happiness. We wanted it to be eternal, not this, limited. I get it, and as soon as I get some happiness, what's around the corner? Some distance. Why is it I have to work 5 days a week for 2 days of weekend? Why can't it be 2 days of work and 5 days a week? Right? And then we'll say, well, why can't it just be 7 days of bliss? But this is the type of happiness we want. And we know one thing, that we have been trying very, very hard through lots of effort to find it. All the advancement in society, all the technology, all the new tools and equipments and faster cars and better machines for the home and this and that and cell phones and computers. All that was meant to simplify our lives, to make our tasks easier, to give us more time and have a better peace of mind. But do we find that we have more peace, more happiness, more values than just a generation ago? Can we honestly say that? If we look at crime rates are higher, depression rates are higher, these, divorce rates are higher, all kinds of whatever metrics we want to see, we can see quality of life is not increasing, though technology is increasing. So what went wrong? Where is the disconnect through all this hard effort? Because we know one thing for sure, it's not due to a lack of trying. We're working really hard trying to find this happiness. And so we established at the end of that first session that the happiness exists on our relationship with the Lord, with God.
because we are spirit, we are meant to be connected with spirit. But in this forgetfulness of this relationship, I should say, we're trying to find happiness like someone roaming the desert trying to find some water. It's there, but it's just in such tiny quantities. So that is where we are. So this relationship with God was the key. And Srila Prabhupada has this amazing quote that I always like to read. It says, Krishna is joyful. I am part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, I must also be joyful. That is natural. If my father is black, then I'm also black. So our Father, the Supreme Father, is joyful. He is not engaged in some industrial work or heavy machine making. He is simply playing his flute, and Radharani is there. That is joyful nature. The point is that we come from the Supreme Lord, and so we must carry the same nature. Right? If a rich man is enjoying opulent foods, his children also enjoy the same. Right? They enjoy the same. Rich man is enjoying a giant mansion, his children enjoy the same. So we are the children of the Lord. So his nature we must also have. So this nature to be joyful is also there. But you see, it is not meant through this intense labor. It is meant through intelligent endeavor. That is how we will find it. So we then talked about, well, how do we know God exists? And we established the proof of God. That any creation has a creator behind it. Things don't just magically appear. The light bulb has a creator, the phone has a creator, the laptop has a computer creator, everyone has a creator. So who is the creator of this planet Earth? Of the sun, of the planets, everything. Who is that creator? Who is the creator of us? So that we established. Then laws and order and design. All these things have people behind it. So the person behind all of this is certainly also God. And we said that God must fit 4 criteria. If we're going to call somebody God, we better be certain that they are God. And so God's first criteria is they must be the supreme source, meaning they who have no other source. Right? If we ask, who is your father's father, father's 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 father? Eventually there must be some original source. Right? Do we answer the age-old question? What came first? The chicken or the egg? Somebody must have put one or the other there first. Who is that somebody? That is God. God is the supreme controller. Not even a blade of grass can move in the wind without the sanction of the Lord. So we can rule ourselves out because we cannot even control the growth of our fingernail. That's how limited control we have. So we at least know we are not God. But God is that supreme controller, not relative control. Then, proprietor. What did we come into this world with? Anything? And what are we going to leave with? Not even the shirt on our back, they say. So we know whatever we possess between those 2 points, and this is relative ownership. Right? It's relative. At some point, we'll also surrender that, including this body. We'll put back into earth. Whether you bury it, burn it, put it in the water, whatever you're accustomed to, eventually it's also going to go. So we don't actually possess anything, but God is the supreme proprietor, possessing and owning everything. And thus, the Lord is the supreme, independent enjoyer. If you are the owner, then you can be the enjoyer. And so what kind of enjoyer are we? Dependent. Dependent on who? So we are not we are also meant to enjoy, but we cannot enjoy independently. But we can enjoy to full in loving relationship with our Supreme Father. So that is when we discuss then, does God exist? Then how to find out about God? The Scriptures. And we said to know something that happened long ago, we must hear about it. Right? To know what your parents did in their childhood was something that occurred before our existence. So we cannot speculate or use our own analysis to figure out. We must hear from our uncles or grandparents what our parents did. Then we can know. So by hearing, we can know reliably. But we should hear from the authorized source. So how to know about why God created this world, why He created me. What is the totality of creation? What exists here? What exists there? Why am I suffering? All these questions that we have, they're answered in our scriptures. And God, being the supreme creator, has given all the knowledge. But we must go to that source to acquire bona fide information. Because if we just Google it, we are likely to be bewildered. Because everybody has an opinion. But there's only one fact. And that is coming from the absolute truth, the supreme Lord. So that is how we acquire knowledge through the Scripture. And we talked about some of the amazing predictions of the Scriptures. Our Scriptures make statements that are only now being proven by science. But they have spoken thousands of years ago. Like the development of the baby in the womb of a mother. Long before imaging technology. Describing exactly how the baby is even situated. Upside down and what type of position. All of that was given. Not one thing you can find in our Shastra that has been disproven by science. Shows how it is the true perfect source of knowledge. So to get our answers, we must approach Shastra. And that is how we'll find conclusive. Because everyone can have an opinion, whether the earth is flat or round. And that debate went on for a long time. And tomorrow's debate will be something else. But the facts reside within our Shastra. And that is where we'll get our answers. So that knowing that there is God, and the key to my happiness is this relationship, well then who am I? And we established, I am not this body. I am not this hand. Right? I say this is my hand. If my hand is over there, I don't say I am over there. I say my hand. So who is the mind? It is the soul. This body is a temporary covering. It is a machine. Just like the cars that we came in to attend this program. We got in and we drove it. That car is dead matter. It doesn't move unless there's a driver inside to move it. Well, this body is also dead matter. But by the presence of the soul within it, it has life. And we know when someone passes away, what leaves? Body is there. The soul is there. And thus it is gone from life to death. So the body is a vehicle. It is a very important vehicle, but it is a vehicle. And what is the relevance of knowing this? Is two-part. One, we must understand that we have been trying to find our happiness from this body, from the interaction of matter. But actually the soul's the source of the real happiness. Because the soul is made up of ananda. And spirit only mixes with spirit. Just as oil and water does not mix, trying to bring the spirit soul into happiness and water is just like trying to take a fish, put it on a beautiful palanquin, give it all kinds of jewels and wonderful foodstuffs and great wealth. It cannot enjoy it because it's out of its natural environment. And so the soul trying to enjoy the material world is like a fish on a wall. But when that soul is connected to the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Spirit, then it finds the ananda. Just as that water, that fish, when it's reconnected with water, finds its peaceful state again. And the second thing we must remember is that the soul has needs in addition to the body. We know, if the car is hungry, we give it fuel. But if the driver is hungry, do we give it fuel? No, we give it rice, dal, sabji, dosa, idli. Right? We give it food. If the driver is sick, we go to the hospital. If the car is sick, we go to the mechanic. So they have needs and they are met by different functions. So what are the needs of the soul? That is what we must uncover. So this is the answer to the question, who am I? And we know we are spirit soul. And the soul, it has value when it is connected to the Supreme. Just like my hand. If my hand tries to enjoy independent of the body, can it enjoy? You bring one nice gulab jamun, and that hand says, I'm not going to put it in the stomach. I want to enjoy it myself. Can it enjoy? The hand gets its enjoyment by serving the whole. When it puts it in the body, it also gets its enjoyment. But when a hand tries to enjoy independently, nothing happens. So similarly, because the hand is part of the body, it must serve the whole. Because we are part of the Supreme Lord, we also must serve. And when we do, then we find this ananda that we are looking for. So it is in that relationship that we find it. So then we talked about, well, where did I come from? And we said, well, we were once enjoying in the spiritual world in eternal bliss, where all the doctors are on retirement because nobody is sick. All the psychiatrists are unemployed because everybody has a very peaceful state of mind. No police officers because everybody is just enjoying in bliss together. There is unlimited happiness. That's where we came from. So why would we leave this place and come to this place of Dukhalayam Shashvatam? And Krishna explains it, compares this to a prison house full of misery. Why did we end up here? Because we wanted to be independent of the Lord. So we know every grain of food we eat. Can we grow even a single grain of rice without the mercy of the sun, the rain, the soils? Can you do anything? You can have all the wealth in the world, but if you don't have food, will you be happy? So we are fully dependent on the Lord's mercy. But we forgot that. And so now we are in the process of remembering this and reawakening this knowledge so that we can undo. Because we know a prison house is simply meant to purify, provide some level of punishment to purify. Right? They don't provide the royal amenities that then one has no inspiration to get out. They give us a little bit difficult existence. This material world was created as such to help us remember this is not where we belong. We belong in loving relationship with our Supreme Father. And so, we have to purify. And even the difficulties we face, we should acknowledge that when my mother was giving me a slap because I was not studying, that was a slap of love. I may not have seen it at the time, but my mother was not slapping the neighbor's child when they did not study, but only to me. That isn't a slap of love. So, as a mother and father, sometimes we have to punish children. It is for their good. It's for out of our good intent. So similarly, the devotees realize, Krishna, yes, sometimes I face some difficulties, but then there's also a blessing. It is a gentle reminder that I should be more discriminate, more thoughtful, and help to overcome this separation from my Supreme Lord. So it is a great inspiration, and it is of the Lord. So the choice now is ours, what to do. And the choices we make lead to so many different bodies. We have 8.4 million options, right? And we know that what's the difference between me and that spider that I took out of my house last week? Karma. No difference. That spider is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. It also has the same soul. It also was in the spiritual world. But why it's in the spider body today? Because some of its past actions have led to that. And why I am in this body today? Because my past actions are here. And so, if we don't be discriminate and think what to do, we'll take our journey back down to all these other life forms. This has been going on for a long time. And so it is up to us to decide, now that I've been blessed with this higher intelligence, what am I going to do? Simply use it to eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and defend nicely? Or am I going to use this intelligence in this human form of life to once and for all find the eternal solution I've been long searching for? So the choice is ours. And the reactions are that. So after so much effort, what to do? You know, I have options, like going to a train station. I can pick where I want to go. But once I board a train, my destination is fixed. I cannot tell the conductor, hey, can you take me this way instead? So similarly, we have choices, whether they're good actions or bad actions. And the reactions we don't have choices on. Those are ours. So we should understand, man's laws may say good and bad, but ultimately whose laws we have to answer to? God's laws. That is the supreme authority. Yes, we must answer to man's laws, but we must ultimately answer to God's laws. And so that is the option we have. So we know bad actions means bad reactions. Good actions mean good reactions. And there's no escaping this infallible justice system. Why? Because God is all-knowing. He sees everything with perfect clarity. The judge in the courtroom sees things based on what was given to them, information. They were not there at the time. But God is there at every moment of our life, observing everything. And so, never is the reaction too much, nor is it too little. It is an exact proportion to our past actions. Okay? So, what to do? And we know good doesn't cancel out bad. So the choice is for us. Because we know if we have any reactions, either good reactions or bad reactions, in our farming silo, if you remember, it means we must come back and accept them. And good reactions means what? A-class jail cell. Good reactions means A-class jail cell. Yes, I have a better existence than those in the B and the C class. But still I'm within. And if somebody is sitting in the A-class jail cell thinking, I've achieved the perfection of life, everything that there is to achieve. If you were observing this on the outside, would you consider that very sane, intelligent? You say, oh, that's crazy. But without knowledge of what exists beyond this material world, all we are trying to do is make the best of a bad bargain. But now we have knowledge that actually there's life far beyond this. That even the higher planetary systems are still full of disease and old age and death and stress and fear and anxiety. Only in Vaikuntha, free of all misery, does that exist. So now with knowledge we know what is the real ultimate opportunity. Otherwise, we'll just be clamoring for that A-class jail cell in a very foolish way. So what to do now? Because good actions lead to good reactions, but that's just the A-class jail cell. Bad reactions lead me to a C-class, but I want to get out. What is the option? That is bhakti, devotional service. Right? So we have this opportunity. By doing devotional service, by doing bhakti, which we'll define today. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? That's what we're going to do. We will be able to eliminate lifetimes and lifetimes of sins that we have acquired. Completely wipe out, destroy, and create no new sins. By the actions in devotional service, no new karma is created. And even more so, the heart purifies. It becomes pure of all these contaminants. So that even the desires, the tastes for these bad activities no longer remain present in our heart. This is the great potency of devotional service. It is so sweet and powerful. But there's even one more benefit that we did not discuss last time. And that is that the process of bhakti is also very enjoyable. And normally you say no pain, no gain. And you have to labor very hard, and then the medicine is bitter. But we're willing to take the bitter medicine for some end result. You work extremely hard in medical school, then you go to residency and no pay, long nights. But you do all of that. Why? To get the benefit of being. But Krishna has made the process so nice that even the process of purification is very sweet and enjoyable. To hear about the Lord's pastime is sweet. To honor prasadam offered to the Lord is so delicious. To sing and dance with his beautiful bhajans. To see his forms. All these activities themselves are giving happiness. But it is also the great purifying process. So the Lord, being so compassionate, has said, I'll make it even powerful, but also very sweet. And so this is the great opportunity we have. And we get to decide what to do. But if we think, this is for a later time, you told me, yam yam papismanam bhavam tadantekalavram. Just remember Krishna at the time of death and you'll go back. So I can just do everything I want now, and at the time I'll remember. That in theory is possible. But if your child came to you and said, Mother or Father, I don't need to study. And you'll ask, well, how you'll maintain yourself? No, I'll just go to the store, buy one lottery ticket, I'll win, and I'll maintain myself. Would you accept that as a reasonable strategy? Because the probability of that happening is virtually nil. Same. If we spend our whole life not thinking of the Lord, practicing spiritual life, the probability of remembering Him at the end is also virtually nil. So what is the best process? Begin today. And that process itself is very enjoyable and very. So now, one may ask, well, if my nature is to be in loving relationship with the Lord, like any child has a natural love for mother and father, then where is it? I'm going to wonder, where is it? Well, it's there. It is just covered. We have to remove the covering. Michelangelo used to be, a great, great sculptor. And he would say that these sculptures are already there. I just remove the excess stone. And thus they reveal themselves. So actually the process of bhakti is to awaken our dormant love of God. This love of God is the intrinsic nature of each of us as spirit souls. See, if I want to become a tennis player, I have to go and learn the art of playing tennis. It is not my intrinsic nature to be a tennis player. That is a skill I try to acquire. But love of the Lord, that is our nature. Because we are part and parcel of the Lord. Just like a baby. When a baby emerges from the womb of a mother, does anybody have to do a formal introduction? Child, this is your mother. Now she'll take care of you the rest of your life? No. As soon as baby is held by mother, there's a natural bond. So similarly, our love with Krishna is our natural state. It is not something that we have to go and acquire. It is lying dormant here. It is our natural state. Prabhupada would liken it to a baby when they are walking. When a baby is learning to walk, we give it some practice to it. But that practice is not giving the child the ability to walk. The child's nature is to walk. Simply the practice is to bring it out. To bring that ability to walk. So similarly, the practice of bhakti is to bring out this natural love, this dormant love. It is there. And so we should have full faith and confidence that yes, it will happen. Because we should know one thing. We had it alive and vibrant at one point. And all we have done is simply covered it. Just like I have a beautiful shiny diamond and now I've stuck it in the mud. But I don't think, I lost this diamond. What do I need to do? Just remove the mud. And the diamond regains itself. So that natural state of love is there. And we just have to find it. Right? And so sometimes we wonder why I don't feel it. Right? So if I have this love, why I do love going to movies and this and that more than reading Bhagavad Gita, chanting and enjoying this? Why is it not there? So we'll give the example of a magnet. If you have a giant, two magnets, we know what is the nature of two magnets? Go attract, right? But now if I have two magnets and I put 100 sheets of paper in between them and I have the magnet, do I feel the attraction of the magnets? But is a natural attraction between the magnets there? But it's just not perceived. Why? Because there's an obstacle. There are the 100 paper. As I start to remove pieces of paper, 1, 2, 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, maybe now I start to feel, and I take a few more, 70, 80, 90, 95, 96, 90, more and more. And the last sheet, did the removing of the papers create the attraction? That is like us. Our love for Krishna is there. But what's in the way? It is the impurities, the lust, the anger, the pride, the envy, the illusion. Right? And so what to do? And we see in our Shastra repeated over and over again. That when one does devotional service, naturally the senses purify. Purify of what? It is the byproduct. We don't have to go out and say, okay, how do I reduce my pride, envy, anger, love? No, it is the natural byproduct of a spiritual life. That's what happens. And so through this process, one begins to engage their senses in the service of the Lord, and the purification happens. And then one will find this natural love emerge. And the beauty is, once we start, it's like a giant ball at the top of a hill. Once you start it down the hill, it just builds. Because the more devotional service we do, the more purification. When there's more purification, what happens? That attraction becomes intensified. And when there's more attraction, what do? More bhakti. And when we do more bhakti, more attraction. More attraction, more bhakti. And this cycle continues. And that is the beautiful process the Lord has arranged. So now, let us get down to the execution, the implementation of this great process of devotional service. What to do now? So we have two types of knowledge. Theoretical knowledge. We study in books. But then we know that is not sufficient. We then need to apply it. Practical knowledge. We train. Right? So this theoretical knowledge and realized knowledge. For example, you're taking a bus to the office. And it's taking you 45 minutes to take the bus. And then one day somebody says, hey, if you wait 5 minutes and catch the next bus, it's an express. It'll get you there 15 minutes earlier. Oh, I can come 5 minutes later and reach 15 minutes earlier. That's 20 minutes savings. Wow, I never knew. Now, if I take that knowledge and still take the old bus I've always taken, that is just theoretical knowledge. But when I start to take that express bus, now I am applied that knowledge. Then I get the benefit of that knowledge. So knowledge, it leads us to behave in a way without which we'd act in another way. So knowledge should lead to a change in behavior, a change in activity. Knowing about this bus should lead to me to take that bus. Then that knowledge has value. Right? So this realized knowledge is key, not just knowledge alone. Everybody now knows I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. Right? After a few weeks of coming, we all have that. But now, it's in actually applying it. Right? If I didn't change my bus routine, then there's no value in the knowledge. Similarly, I acquired I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. But if it doesn't lead to a change in activities that reflect that, then there's no value. And it must be done properly. Patient goes to the doctor. The doctor says you have diabetes. Oh, I know. Yes. You must do these things, exercise, avoid sweets. And so patient wakes up in the morning and starts eating a bowl of sweets. The wife says, what are you doing? You have diabetes. And he says, I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul. That is not proper application. We must apply it in the right context, understanding the opportunity, right? So how to turn this knowledge of theory into realized knowledge? All of you have a driver's license? So you took a written test. They gave you the license? No. What did you have to do then? You have to show a road test. So you just gave a road test, or what did you have to do before giving a road test? You have to practice. And you have to have somebody teach you how to show that you took the book knowledge and now you can apply it. Then you go and give a practical test, right? So then that knowledge becomes. So how to turn theoretical knowledge into realized knowledge? We need two things. We need to practice and we need a coach. We need to practice the skill. We can't just acquire knowledge. But then we have to actually do something with it. And we need somebody to show us how. And that is how this medical student turns theoretical knowledge into realized knowledge. Would you like to go to a doctor who only has theoretical knowledge? No. Okay. Yes. So it takes practice and some austerity to be able to do that. And why we have been assembled here in this venue like this? Because Krishna is sitting in our heart as Paramatma. And he is observing that we have some desire, either subtle or very overt, but that desire is there. And he is bringing us into the opportunity to be able to practice this knowledge under the great teacher, Srila Prabhupada, and our Guru Parampara, so that we can apply this theoretical knowledge into realized knowledge. Right? But it takes some austerity. We have to practice. Once Beethoven was giving a concert, and he gave a beautiful concert at the Queen's Palace. And then the queen had a private reception with a few of her prime guests, and Beethoven was there. And the queen said, Beethoven, you're a prodigy. And he said, prodigy? What you saw tonight was a product of 6 hours a day, 40 years of practice, over and over again. It is not just some born skill. It is through practice. So this practice, it becomes critical. When it comes to any aspect of our life, how much practice we needed, how many years we spent studying in school, and then studying in university, and then we get on a job and we practice. It takes effort. It takes time and energy. Right? So how much effort it takes to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, even just be anything. It takes time and effort. Right? But when it comes to spirituality, we think, I tried this chanting for 3 days, nothing happened. It must not be working. It doesn't work that way. You didn't become a doctor on a weekend course. You're not going to become, a pure bhakta in, a 5-week seminar. But by practice, these principles in time will prove to be the perfect path to find this perfection. So now it's time to put this theoretical knowledge to value. Otherwise, it's like acquiring that knowledge of the bus, but not changing our behaviors. What was the value of knowing there was a better option? So let us see how to bring this into life. So let us answer a couple of key questions that we often think about in this process. Is it possible for me to practice spirituality with all my family obligations? I have work, I have maintained my family, my home, bank accounts for the future, all these things. So how is it possible now to practice spirituality? So let us see. Krishna did not speak the Bhagavad Gita to a renounced person. Right? He spoke it to Arjuna. People say, this is great for those who have nothing else to do. They can do spiritual life. Sometimes we see this sentiment exist. But actually, that is not accurate. So, Arjuna was selected to hear the Bhagavad Gita. And why did Krishna select Arjuna, of all people, to hear this knowledge? He could have given it to anybody. So the first thing Krishna is doing is indicating that this knowledge is just not for renunciates. It is not for sannyasis. Arjuna was married. He was a politician. He was a warrior. He had a family. He had the same circumstances in different degrees, different varieties that we all have. What Krishna is saying is this is not just for renounced people who have no responsibilities in family and society and work and that. Right? No. But he's showing it applies also to householders, those living in family life. And if we apply these principles, we'll find actually our family life becomes enriched. We'll see more about that in a second. The third reason Arjuna was selected is because Arjuna was in a position of being bewildered. He was confused about his duty. What should he do? He was in a great dilemma. Because if he fights the war, those he loves are going to be killed. And if he doesn't fight the war, those he loves are going to be subjected to the evil terror. So either way, he thought he was in a lose-lose situation. So he was confused about what to do. Anyone ever face a dilemma? Confused about what to do? Yeah. Thankfully, and hopefully, we don't face as extreme a dilemma as Arjuna did. But Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to bring clarity to what Arjuna should do to solve his dilemmas. And those same applications, those same principles applied to us will also solve our dilemmas and give us clarity of what to do. And the fourth reason is that he showed to Arjuna how to practice spiritual life while performing all your requisite duties. How they are not two separate or what we call mutually exclusive activities. It is not an either or, but how to do both together. So how to pursue that? He gave us, Krishna speaks like, an example to help illustrate this. Suppose we are going on a road trip and we are going to drive to Florida. We load the car up, pack up the family, and we get in the car and we start driving. What is our goal? Get to Florida. But along the way of driving to Florida, we have other responsibilities that come up. We have to feed the family. We have to fuel the car. We have to take rest. Maybe we stop and see some sights, stretch the legs. We have other responsibilities. But do we let those other responsibilities get in the way of what was our goal? Going to Florida. No. So we do those activities in context, in understanding of my main goal, which is to go to Florida. But if I just focus on my goal of going to Florida, and as I forget the family hunger, does that also lead to a successful journey? No. So what Krishna teaches us in the Bhagavad Gita, through his teachings to Arjuna, is how one satisfies all the duties of life, but doesn't get lost in those duties, and remembers what the ultimate goal is, which is not to go to Florida, to return home back to God. So this process of spiritual life is how to perform all of our duties, feeding the family, taking care of everybody, but still getting to our end destination. How to practice spirituality and bring our whole family together with it. This is what and that's what makes it so dynamic and applicable. Okay? This question we get a lot. Do we have time? My good friend recently was telling me, I don't have time. Hey, we have time. We always have time. And I was speaking at University of Michigan once in the business school to some students who had wanted to hear this seminar. And one of them said, at the time, he said, I have no time to do this right now. I am paying big tuition. It is so competitive to get a job, so many projects, so many interviews, so many things. I have to really dedicate my efforts here. Later, I will do this. I said, okay. I just sort of let it go. I continued on with the seminar. And then at the end, it broke up. And I was just making some casual dialogue. And I said, did everybody enjoy the football game last week? Big game. And this saying, yes, it was a great game. We had so much fun. And then we enjoyed afterwards. And I said, that is also part of getting a job, paying your tuition, going to the game was okay? And I thought, I have to remind you. I said, we have time. What we don't have, my father used to tell me, we don't have taste. I would tell him, I don't have time. He said, you have time, you don't have taste. You have not understood the importance of this yet. But actually, we have so much time. Somebody says, do 10 minutes of chanting, no time. 1 hour phone call, somebody, no time. Come to the Bhakti Vriksha, 1 hour, no time. 3 hour movie, let's go. We don't have taste. Actually, we see there's 168 hours in the week. We just give a few percentage, 5% to Lord in spiritual life. Whole transformation occurs. Krishna doesn't say you give me 100% of your time even. You just give me a little bit and see what kind of response you get. So time is there. Let us never use that as an excuse. Stephen Covey, famous author, preached about the business principles of time management. He sold over 40 million copies of his book. And he gave us some very powerful tools. But he said there's these quadrant 2 activities. What are they? They are the really important things in life, but they're not urgent. And so what happens is we don't get to them. Everybody knows, exercise, I need to do it. But do we do it? We let other things creep in. Maintaining relationships with important people in our life. These things, we let them slip. But most important is our spiritual practice. Because it's not urgent, at least we don't perceive it to be urgent. It is actually urgent. Because otherwise we'll be back in that spider body. But we don't perceive it, it gets pushed on. So what Stephen Covey recommends is that when we build our week plan, first we should allocate all the quadrant 2 activities first. Schedule out, when am I going to do these activities? Then fill the day with all your other activities. But if you don't do that, you'll always be thinking you don't have time. So if we schedule out, when am I going to do my chanting? When am I going to do my reading? Coming to the temple, put that in the calendar first. Then fill in the space. There's a very famous example that anybody has heard of the rock, pebble, sand. So there's a little exercise. You have rocks, you have pebbles, and sand. And you try to fill a container. If you put all the sand in first, it fills it up. Then you put the rocks, pebbles in, it fills more. But then by the time you get to rocks, there's no room. So Kabir says this is like our life, the time. But it says if you first put the rocks, the important things in your life first, then the secondary things, the pebbles, it fills some of the gaps in between the rocks. Then you pour the sand in, all the minutiae that we have, all the little things that we deem most important. You put those in. Those will also get done. Because it'll find all the tiny, tiny crevices. So this is the art of making time. Is the important things we must first prioritize. And if we do, trust me, everything else. But there is a spiritual formula here also. When we make time for Krishna, it never goes unanswered. He will make time for us in ways we could never imagine. But we have to start. So let us never use time as an excuse. Let us uncover some misconceptions of life. Sometimes we think, spirituality is a retirement program. This is for after I get 60. Okay, I'm taking this knowledge and then I'll bank it away. When I get older, then I'll start practicing. You know, when my kids are grown and all settled, everything is a mortgage, just all it, then I'll. But we know what happens. It doesn't happen. One of my friends was recently taken to this process, and the mother was giving so much heart. Why are you doing this now? You know, you should do this in your older age. Not now. You should enjoy this and that. And they said, okay, you're an old age. Now what are you doing? But the point is that we should understand how to dynamically do this. And what the Bhagavad Gita teaches is Arjuna had such important activities, yet this became the principle of how to perform them. And we see, leading surgeons and businessmen and engineers and all kinds applying these principles and finding great success. So the Bhagavad Gita will teach you so many things. It will teach you time management. We just did a little bit. It will teach us stress management, anger management, prioritization, leadership skills, all these things, teamwork. They are all contained within the Bhagavad Gita. It is a dynamic and broad-reaching. So you'll find success in all aspects of your life. And that's what makes it so profound and so wonderful. So this is, the opportunity. We should begin, what age we should start practicing spiritual life? 5. So you can take your current age, minus 5, and say that many years I have to catch up. Don't think I have some time in the future to make up. No, we should start at the end. Because at the end of the day, anybody can guarantee old age. They'll reach that point. You can't even guarantee tomorrow. And who wants to start practicing when the eyes are blurry and 3s look like 8, the stomach is not working, the back hurts, this. That's the time to start? It is now, when things are fresh. Another misconception. Oh, no. Come to this program. No. I cannot come. Why? My wife won't let me. My husband won't let me. Why? Oh, I didn't think I have to give everything up. You give somebody a Bhagavad Gita, they think you have a snake in your hand or something. Right? No, run. Spirituality is not like this. Krishna consciousness means we add bhakti to our life. See, we have so many things. We have degrees and bank accounts and family and house and all these things. But Krishna is like the one. You know what I mean? If you have 10 zeros, 30 zeros, or 50 zeros, is there any meaning to zeros? But as soon as I put a 1 in front, now it has meaning? Big meaning. So all the things that we have, when we put Krishna into the front of that, then actually it creates great value for us. So it's not about renouncing all the things we have. It is about bringing the Lord into the center of it all. Then we'll find the fulfillment we search for. And this is practical spiritual life. It is not about giving things up. It is about adding Krishna to it. And so how to do that? That is the practical application we'll be discussing over the weeks and months to come. But this is the key. And George Harrison was a great, famous musician. He was from the Beatles. And he began hearing from Srila Prabhupada and became really encouraging. He once went to Prabhupada and said, I want to give up everything and just serve. Prabhupada said, no, why? You have fame. You have talent. You have an art. Use it to serve Krishna. And millions of people heard the holy names because of the platform George Harrison gave. But if he had given everything up and just went to serve the temple, it wouldn't have worked. So actually spirituality is about using whatever status, position, ability, talent we have, but use it in the service of Krishna. And not in the means to eat nicely, sleep nicely, make nicely, defend nicely. That will not give us the hope that we want. So why was the Bhagavad Gita spoken on the battlefield? Why not on the banks of some river? Why not up in the mountains or in some cave? Why on the battlefield? And not only on the battlefield, where it was spoken? In the middle of the battlefield. Not at the end of the battle, but at the absolute pinnacle of this whole drama. Years and years of activities had led to this frightful moment. Millions of soldiers had assembled on both sides. Conches have been blown. Formations have been set. And this battle is just about to ensue. And at this point, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Why? Why did Krishna architect it at this point? At the pinnacle of all of this. The first is to prove to us that this philosophy, this knowledge, we should apply it at the most critical times of our life. Sometimes we, once I settle X, Y, and Z. Did Arjuna say, time out, Krishna. Let me settle this major battle, then? No. So Krishna chose to speak this at this point to show that when things are the most tense, when they're the most up in the air, that is when this philosophy provides the best knowledge for us. Not when all our priorities are. What other priorities Arjuna could have had, right? And Arjuna was very intelligent in showing to us, and it was at this point he chose to listen. He could have said, Krishna, why don't we get out of the battle? In the evening we can have this conversation. No, but he understood. Krishna wasn't there to speak about the weather, to speak about some politics or some. He was speaking about the essence of life. And so this most critical juncture, he spoke. And Arjuna understood to listen. And this is the, we are also in warlike situations, working so hard, fighting to try to establish so many things. And we have these challenges and dilemmas and all of this. It is at that point the Bhagavad Gita is most beneficial to hear and understand. So this is why we should take to it today. So, what to do now? So it's a 5-step process. We'll go through each of these quickly. The first is we must accept that I'm sick. I have to acknowledge that the path I am on, trying to find peace and happiness, is not working. I continue to be strife with all of these things. Putting more money into my bank account, putting more cars on my driveway, putting more titles on my business card, more this, more that. I've tried all of it, but it is not giving me the more happiness I thought it would. So at least we can acknowledge that. Generations and generations have been trying, but it's not working. So until we come to that point, it is up to our decision to make that assessment. But that is the fact. Once we accept that this is not working, then we can come to it. And we know we have symptoms. What are the symptoms? We've already gone through them. All these. They're there. All these things none of us want. Right? Anybody wants these? No. But they're there. So those are the symptoms. But we must just acknowledge it and accept it. Because if I do, then I can start the process of getting help. Right? So once we're sick, we know. What do? We go to the hospital. We go to a place that can cure. Right? So we know, though, If the car is sick, do we take it to Beaumont or Henry Ford? No. But if the body is sick, we can. But if the soul is sick, can we take it to Henry Ford or Beaumont? Do they have a department, neuroscience, physical therapy, cardiac? Do they have a soul department in the hospital? So where do we go? What is the hospital to cure the ailments of the soul? That is the temple. The temple is a spiritual hospital for all of us. And a temple has a very important purpose, just like the hospital. When you go to the hospital, Beaumont, Henry Ford, whatever, if 4 things happen, you have a successful visit. First, you should understand what is your disease, what is your ailment. 2, you should understand what caused it, how you got it. 3, we should know what is the cure. How do I become free of this disease? And then 4, I should have the medicine, the cure in hand, that I can, not some theoretical cure. If we get these 4 things, then is the visit to the hospital successful? So similarly, when we go to the temple, we should also get these 4 things. 1, we should know, what is my disease? What is my disease? I've acquired this material body, and I'm strife with all these difficulties. That is it. That I should understand. Then 2, what caused it? This desire to be separate from God. This envy. Why you? Why not me? I should know what caused it. Then 3, I should understand. What's the treatment? Krishna tells us. What's the treatment? Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam shanam vrajaham tam sarva papebhyo. That you surrender everything. You become my devotee. Manmana bhakto. Majidi man manaskuru. You do these 4 things. That's the treatment. So we should get that knowledge. And then finally, what's the specific medicine that I should do? And we know the medicine in this age, Harinam, 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 Ekevalam, Kavam, Hashtevana, I should start the process of chanting. That is the purifying process to remove the impurities that are covering the soul. So I should get this information. Then it's a successful visit to the temple. This is a real visit. And why our acharyas work so hard to establish so many temples? Sometimes people wonder, why we have to have so many temples? Anybody ask the government why we have so many hospitals? No. Why? Because a good government, they want healthcare within quick reach of every citizen. But that's to cure the body. The real well-wisher wants this hospital for the soul accessible to everyone within a moment. And that is why great personalities like Srila Prabhupada endeavored intensely and gave us this Devasadan Mandir. We'll be celebrating 50 years. Why to give us a place where we can go and cure the ailments that we have. But we must go with the right intent and purpose. And also, we learn in spiritual life that we can also make our home a temple. But right now, a home is maybe something different. Husband comes home from work, wife comes home from work, child comes home from school, and battle. One backpack is left in the wrong way, and boom, meal is 5 minutes late. Oh, what happened? You don't understand. You don't understand. And our home becomes Kurukshetra. This is the need. So what to do? Right? All because of this hand. So what to do? As long as we have multiple centers in the home, there will be battle. But when in the home we make the Lord the center of the home, then things become peaceful. Just like if you have this leaf that's dropping water into the pond. Each time a drop enters the pond, this circle is formed. But no circles will collide, right? But as soon as I have 2 points where I'm dropping drops into the pond, what happens? If I am the center, wife is center, child is center. But if we all know Krishna is the center, and we all work together in that light, then we'll find great happiness. So we must establish a temple in our home. And that temple in our home means we establish it first in our heart. So we understand the Lord. We make Krishna the center of our house. Once I went to somebody's house, and I saw they had the temple in this very peculiar spot. I said, why you put Krishna here? He said, you said put it in the center. This is the exact center, 15 feet. I said, Grade, put Krishna in the center of your heart. Put him in a nice place, not somewhere in the middle. He said, oh, I have to explain clearly now. So this means you put Krishna in the center. We recognize this is his home. We don't stay in the master bedroom. We stay in the servant bedroom. With just this change of consciousness, we can actually make even our home very nice in the center. It doesn't have to be so elaborate. But unfortunately, we've made a different altar in our home. And the problem is this association is so dangerous for us. But the most big problematic is that we don't recognize it. You know, if a criminal knocks on our door and says, hey, I'm a criminal, I'm about to steal your things, at least they announce themselves and we can take appropriate protections. Right? But this danger doesn't announce itself. It's just there. And what we do, we actually invite it into the home. We give it a prominent place. And then we gather the family and we worship it with great attention for hours and hours a day. And what is this dangerous influence we've invited into our home? This is our temple today. But we see, this association is so dangerous for us. You know, at least years ago, the programming was somewhat wholesome. These studies show staggering statistics. An average child sees something like 6,000 murders, 9,000 acts of violence, and several thousand pornographic images before the age of 10. All by consuming TV. Through these subliminal messaging, these unintentional, it is disassociation that just doesn't change. And it just dilutes the brain power. So we should take this altar that we made and put Krishna Katha on there. But understand, it is not there. This is something I don't say. Sit! I told you, no reading or thinking for yourself. This is the one-eyed guru, as they call it. So now we have to approach the right doctor. Are you going to approach anybody with a stethoscope? Does that make them a doctor? And a white coat? No, they must be authorized, right? So Arjuna had his doctor. What can we do? Evam parampara praptanimam rajasa viduhu sakala nehamata yoga nashkapadantapa. So this knowledge is passed down generation to generation. So we talked about this parampara. Okay? This knowledge, it comes through Guru Parampara. It is passed down just like we know this plug is connected 60 miles away to the power station. How? Because if I plug in a lamp, the light will go on. But if there's a disconnected somewhere, does this plug have any value? No. So similarly, the Guru Parampara knowledge must come in disciplic succession. It must come from the source. The source is Krishna. And there must be an uninterrupted connection back. Otherwise, it's like an unconnected power plug. It looks like a plug. It looks great. And how do we know that I'm getting this Bhagavad Gita and it has the knowledge that is coming from the source? Because there's a transformation of heart. Just as the light bulb goes from dark to bright, similarly, by applying the principles, you'll see the transformation of the heart. And thus we can understand it is connected to the original source. It is just not, some pious entertainment. So we'll talk more about this in a few weeks. So what makes a guru? My guru is great. He speaks Sanskrit so fluently. He even sneezes Sanskrit. That doesn't make a guru. What makes a guru is one where we can transform the heart. Where there is an opportunity to transform. Just like if you go to the gym and you hire a trainer. If they cannot transform your body into a fit body, they're not qualified. Right? They may have a fit body themselves, but if they cannot make our body fit, it doesn't make them an authorized trainer. So similarly, what is the qualification? The guru must be able to transform the heart. And the specific qualification is they must be fully versed in the Shastra. But not only fully versed, practicing it. You must practice what you preach. That is what makes an authorized spiritual master. And 2, it must come in Guru Parampara. Because remember, the Guru is like those poles carrying the power line. The pole, do they create power? They just transmit it. So the Guru is a postman. They don't write the message of God, they simply deliver it. But they must deliver it as it is. So they must come in this disciplic succession. Then we know that it is for God. And what is our duty as a disciple? Well, we must be surrendered, willing to learn. If I think I know everything, then what's the point? A student who shows up in the classroom thinking they know more than a teacher, they don't learn. So we must also open our hearts and say, okay, let me start. But learning doesn't mean just take it one way. We must inquire, ask questions, exhaust our doubts. There is no limit to what questions we should ask. Everything, until we are satisfied, we should ask. Right? And then we should render service. Why service? Because when you go to college, you get to go for free. You have to pay some tuition. What is the tuition to Guru? Service. Guru is not looking for wealth in it. He's looking, help, spread this message to others. That is the ultimate service. So this is the duty of the disciple. And Srila Prabhupada is our Param Guru, this great Acharya who came out of extraordinary compassion to teach us and to explain the duties in life, how to care for our family, our dependents, how to care for our parents, the society, for all the things that are important to us, and how to bring them to the ultimate success. How to understand the principles, the regulations, the things to follow, how to live a spiritually and morally honest life, and how to apply these teachings in detail. So this is what the Guru does. And of course we know when you go to the doctor, they tell you things to avoid. Right? And we know, we talked last time, what are the things to avoid? We must avoid these 4 things: meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit affairs. These are the 4 things that destroy our spiritual life. But again, Krishna says, if you're doing all, no problem, just start adding devotional life. It is an additive process, not a subtractive process. Meaning, by the addition of spiritual Krishna consciousness, one will naturally become free of these other activities. So now we come to what is the medicine, the treatment. And I'm just going to quickly summarize this, and then next week we're going to go into detail of these 4 things. Okay? Because we have a wonderful drama awaiting. We also have Damodar Astakam. So we have, this is the 4 things that means practicing spirituality. It is simple, yet highly effective. It is association, books, chanting, and diet. And again, next week we're going to go into each one of these in detail. So I'm just going to cover them in summary, because it's getting a little bit late. So first is association. Association is like this. Srila Prabhupada was once asked by a disciple, Prabhupada, if I want to become a great devotee, how does that happen? He says, well, if you want to be a drunkard, associate with drunkards. If you want to be a devotee, associate with devotees. And so when we become inspired by those around who are also on this path and helping each other, teamwork makes dream work. Right? This association is very, very important to us. And we see it. We tell our children, right? Be careful. Don't associate here. Associate here. Why? Because we know we become influenced by that who we associate with. And this association is like the charging of our battery. When I disassociate my cell phone from the charger in time, what happens? And so I need to reattach it. And then when I pull it back out again, what happens? This is like association. If we go, and then we go weeks without association, what happens to our battery, our spiritual battery? It starts to drain. So this regular association is extremely important in a devotional life. Meeting once a week like this, where we discuss attending and going to the spiritual hospital, the temple once a week. These 2 aspects of association, One, Bhakti Vriksha like this. Two, the temple. It's a powerful formula that charges our battery sufficiently to endure the week of various activities that often take us away. But by this charging, we'll remain strong. So this association is very powerful. Then B, books. We must acquire knowledge. And acquire knowledge so that we can understand the truth, the reality. But acquiring knowledge is two parts. One, our own reading, and two, studying like this. Because when we study like this, we get to learn from each other and hear it in the practical application terms. But still, we should study and read on our own. And so we should take to the process of reading a little bit of Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Very, very powerful. Just one line even, 2 lines, whatever time we allocate, put it in that quadrant shoe and say, this is how much I'm going to do, and make it happen. But books are a very, very important part. And all of you will be distributing some Bhagavad Gita starting next week. And I ask you to bring the Bhagavad Gita with you. Just carrying the book has great value. You're bringing the Lord in His literary form with you. Then C, chanting. If you forget everything in this whole seminar and just remember one thing, then actually nothing is lost. Because by this one activity, everything else will be gained. So if you're going to remember one thing in this seminar, it's this. It is the importance of chanting the holy names. In every yuga, there is a particular process for curing the ailments. In Satyuga, it is through meditation. In Treta Yuga, it is through yajna. In Dwapar Yuga, it is through Archa Vigraha deity worship. And in Kali Yuga, the current age, it is through Harinam Sankirtan chanting. And that's why in the Briham Narada Purana we see Harinam, 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 Evakevalam, Kalo, Nashteva, 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 Gatyarnita. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Then, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. 3 times it's emphasized. Why? Because of its great importance. This is the singular process that when we take to, it will yield the unending results. I'll warn you, I'm going to spend more time on this next week than any other of this section. We're going to talk about each in detail. But this chanting process is so powerful. And the beauty is that it's simple, yet highly effective. Don't be fooled by its simplicity. Because sometimes we think, oh, well, there must be something more. It is the mercy of the Lord that He made this process so simple, yet highly effective. And this is the most important thing that we can do. And I have no hesitation saying, because that is a statement of our acharyas, that by chanting, everything else becomes enriched. So when we think about scheduling out our time, make time for this. We have 24 hours in a day. If you give just 10, 20, 30 minutes for this chanting, you see what kind of effect it has. And ultimately, we'll ask you to give a few more minutes. But it still is a small percentage. But this is the foundation of everything we do. So why we chant, how we chant, and what we chant, that I'm going to discuss in more detail next week. But this is the singular, most important process. This is chanting the holy names. And then finally, diet. Honoring Krishna Prasad. By honoring foods, eating foods that have been offered to the Lord, we get extreme benefit. This is the easiest one actually, because nobody has to make time for eating, right? We all like to eat. But when we offer foods to the Lord, remember, by whose mercy are we obtaining all the foodstuffs? Is it not incumbent on us to first offer to the Lord? And trust me, the Lord isn't hungry for our chapatis and rice and dal and dosa and idlis. But He's hungry for our love. You know, a father is asked by his child, Father, can I have some ice cream? This truck is coming. Yes. And he takes $2 from the father's wallet and goes to the ice cream truck and buys one ice cream. And he comes back. And child opens the ice cream and says, Father, you take the first bite. How touched is the father? Does the father think, oh, that's nice. He took my money and gave me ice cream back? No. He is thinking, my child had the heart to offer. And what does father do? Eat the whole ice cream? No. He just pretends to take it and then gives back. He wants the child to enjoy it. He's touched by the love. Similarly, the Lord, He wants to experience the love that we put in everything we offer Him. Don't worry the quality is that. Do the best we can. Because He's not worried about the spice levels and the balance of this. He's worried about what was the intent that went into that offering. And when we do, He accepts it. And by honoring Krishna Prasadam, we purify the heart. And I'll speak a lot more about this. But there has a profound effect on how to bring the rest of this into place. So this diet is very important. Again, we'll talk about this more next week. So as I mentioned, we'll just be continuing here with this process. In a few weeks, we'll start going into the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to have a couple more presentations, kind of filling in some of the blanks. Also mentioned, Sunday, we have 4 days starting tomorrow. But if you're a little bit limited in time, do not miss this Sunday. It is a glimpse into the spiritual world. There is a flower festival like nothing you'll ever see before. Where the Lord is showered with thousands of flowers. And then those flowers will be showered upon all of us and getting to enjoy. It is amazing bliss and happiness. And this is part of the 50th anniversary celebration. And then Tuesday is the actual day of the installation, and this is the Govardhan Puja day. It is the actual new year in our Vedic spiritual calendar. It is a very auspicious day to begin our spiritual journey. So please make time in your calendar for these two events. Again, Sunday, both of them start at, the Sunday starts at 4:15 and Tuesday starts at 6 o'clock. So we'll post it in the group. The drama that the kids will perform here in a few minutes, they also are going to be able to perform on Tuesday in this grand celebration on the 50th anniversary. So it's a very special opportunity that they have been blessed with. So please make every opportunity to participate in this. And then the final announcement is, some of you may have heard, but we are having our Krishna Kids Camp. This is over Thanksgiving holiday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days. It is an experience that your kids will absolutely love. They'll be begging you to stay one more day, but it is a 3 days where the kids really enjoy a lot of different activities. They'll go on a field trip, they'll do different arts and crafts and different education. And it's for kids from young all through college. We even have a youth retreat that is 1 day on Friday. But it is a great opportunity. So if you'd like to register, you can go to KrishnaKidsCamp.com, and it's spelled like it is up top, so KRSNAKIDZ camp.com. And I'll also post this in our WhatsApp group. But if anybody would like to register, we do encourage you to register because we do have limited seats. I think there are 45 seats this year, so we're limited by some of the capacity. So please, if you're interested, consider registering early. You can register for all 3 days, or you can register for a specific. I encourage all three because they get the whole experience. Very blissful. And then I do not have the flyer here yet, but also on December 12th will be our Gita Shloka competition. So the kids will now begin practicing and preparing for the Shloka competition starting next week. So they've been preparing for this drama up until this point. And so starting next week, we'll be breaking them up into teams based on their ages. And we'll be preparing them for a wonderful Shloka competition that will take place again on Sunday, December 12th. And it's a very sweet opportunity to see, how the children understand. And we ask them to learn the Sanskrit, but also to learn the English, so they understand what it is that they're actually reciting. And so based on the ages, they have different amounts of shlokas, and you'll start to see some of that trickle home, and you can help them in their learnings. But we'll begin that process next week. Okay. So let me stop here. Any questions or comments before we get to our drama? Yes.
Prabhu, I know posting a reading is a very important. Can we hear that too, like in the form of hearing
Yes.
instead of reading the book?
Yes. I wouldn't say instead of, but in addition to. We should do some reading, but then hearing is also a powerful form, but it should not supplant fully. Because what happens is, when we are reading, our attention level is intensified. When we hear, we're still diluted because we might be doing other things, but still there's benefit. So some focused reading is good, but then we can augment and add by hearing.
And one more question. When we do the chanting, I went to the Vrindavan, New Vrindavan. So the Prabhuji was teaching how to do the chanting. So he was doing like one round was done, and then when the second round started, he again he used to say Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya, and then every chanting before that. Do we do that? Or
Yes.
just continuously do that?
No. We should chant this Panchatattva mantra before each round.
Each round.
No, worship is one of the major element. Isn't it worship is one of the major
Worship.
element
Yes.
apart from this four?
Yeah, so what does worship mean? So worship means is an expression of our love. Right? So the process of chanting is also an offering of our love. Because I'll explain that when we go into more detail on what actually chanting is. But there are there's 64 angas of bhakti. So these four found like the kind of are the pillars, and then there are other activities that we'll perform in addition to this. So things like worship, rendering practical service in the temple, performing a drama. Where do all these other activities kind of fall in, right? So that they'll become the additional things that we build on top of this foundation of these four activities. So, but I'll explain two parts. One, what does worship mean, but then also how our chanting is the most powerful form of our worship. Because what we understand in chanting is, again, we are sometimes a little bit confused by the simplicity of it. Right? So I'm going to explain in detail where it comes from, this chanting process, where the mantra, Mahamantra comes from, why it is so potent. I'm going to give some proofs with some different experiences, even some pastimes from our scriptures to show its potency. So we'll establish it. Okay. Any other? Yes?
You said that this is Dukkalayam Ashashvatam, it's like a prison house. But isn't it this material world is also made for exploring and enjoying for enjoyment of living entity?
It's not made for that. It's made to help us remember that our real enjoyment comes from spiritual connection. But Krishna, He's established this world out of His love and compassion, where one can, enjoy relative comforts while pursuing the higher goal of spiritual life. So we see these different processes where one can, experience, relative comforts. But ultimately, one should become clear not to be confused by those relative comforts and forget the ultimate opportunity. So, but remember, we have only one intrinsic activity. Let me ask you, does the fish have ability to enjoy both in water and out of water? It can only enjoy in water. We as spirit soul have only one ability to enjoy. Not two, not three, because spirit only mixes with spirit. There are many varieties of enjoyment, like a fish may enjoy different varieties of water, but the spirit soul only can really enjoy in connection with
So practical spirituality means then, how do I use this material world in enjoyment with Krishna? Now that's how the world can be used. Because the material world also is a manifestation and creation of Krishna. So through intelligence, we'll understand how one can use whatever there is enjoyable in this world, how to use it in enjoyment with Krishna. Then we'll find actual happiness. Otherwise, fish out of water. Okay? Yes.
The kama more madamasa, what senses we have. Why, when he's creating us, why he put into our world? Some people have more, some people have less. That why we are in the process of controlling that.
So the pride and envy, anger, illusion, these things, they are functions in the material world. And we acquire them as we come in contact with them. So just like if I come in contact with water, I become wet. Right? Similarly, when I come in contact with the material world, these things manifest. Because the material world is that opportunity where one is trying to experience separation from Krishna. But Krishna created it only to satisfy our desire. Because we wanted to try to be separate. So if we desire, my dear Lord, please cleanse me of this, then He'll also fulfill. But we have to sincerely desire. Okay? But just as a child, if child comes to father and says, Father, help me get an A on this test, father will help. But child has to do their part. Right? So we cannot just go to the Lord and say, Lord, bless me. Yes, Lord will bless. But we have to do our part. We have to put forth our effort. And we know, when the child puts forth effort, how does father respond? Shows more. And child puts even more effort, how does father respond accordingly? Says, okay, I'm good? No, does even more. So our effort is what then inspires the more and more mercy from the Lord. But often we think back, when the Lord blesses me, then I'll chant. Doesn't work that way. We have to make it a priority. We do it. When we do, then the Lord will bless us with the ability to chant. Just picking one example. Okay? So these impurities that we have, they are based on our interaction with the modes. And how to become free of them? Sarvopadi vinirvikam tatpare vinirva. Rishikesha Rishikena. Rishikesha means master of the senses. Who is the master of the senses? Krishna. When the senses are engaged with Krishna, then the senses become cleansed, purified. We're not going to cleanse the eyes by washing them. We're going to cleanse the eyes by seeing the form of the Lord, by seeing the pastimes of the Lord. We're not going to cleanse the ears with some Q-tips. We're going to cleanse the ears by hearing about the nature of the Lord. Like this. So when we engage the senses in spiritual life, spirituality doesn't mean we stop the senses. Spirituality means we use the senses in Krishna's sense. Then we'll find the happiness and the purification. Okay? Any other questions or comments?
Prabhu,
Yes.
I have a little funny questions,
Okay.
but really the intention is not to make it sarcastic. And other,
Sure.
I have a lot of dilemma
No
I need
problem.
to get clarified.
No problem.
So we, being Indian, we have different, lot of gods, different gods for a different, like Mother Lakshmi is for wealth, Lord Vishwakarma is for engineering, like so.
Yeah.
Every calendar day is a god day for
Yeah.
us. Why we are so being Indian, as a nation, we are so poor rather than if you see all big factories are in the United States. This is one of the richest country in the world. So why this discrimination is happening?
Yeah. So, first we should understand what is wealth. Wealth is a means to happiness. If you have a blind man and you give him $1 billion for his vision, what would he consider to be more wealth? You give a lame man $1 billion or the ability to walk, what will be more wealth? Wealth is not our money. It is one form of wealth. You give a family the opportunity to have a child, or what they'll say. Right, so these are the forms of wealth. But our ultimate wealth, this question was presented to Ramananda Rai in a conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the ultimate wealth that we have, because the wealth of $1 billion, even the wealth of my vision, of my ability to walk, how long that will last? A few years? 100 years? But what is the real eternal wealth? My relationship with the Supreme Lord, my bhakti. That is the wealth that will carry with me forever. Whatever devotional work I do and make a deposit into my spiritual bank account, one, it never depletes, and two, it's eternal. Your Chase Bank of America bank account you're taking with you to your next life? Bill Gates is born a billionaire in his next life? Starts back to? So, Lakshmi Devi is a source of wealth. But what kind of wealth? We, due to some other desires, misconstrue what real wealth is. What is her great wealth? Rendering Pada Sevana. Worshipping Lord Vishnu. So actually, Lakshmi Devi is the giver of wealth in that, giving us Pada Sevana, the opportunity to serve the Supreme Lord. So we may see material wealth as a discrepancy in India and the other nations, right? Remember, that wealth is a function of karma. So you can say those in India who are following this process, they are, acquiring good wealth, so in the future they'll also enjoy wealth. But let us be clear on what real wealth ultimately is. Because it is not very intelligent to go to a rich man and ask for a few grains of broken rice. Would it be considered very intelligent? That's what we do when we go to the Lord and say, Lord, give me a few $1 million. Because in the grand scheme of millions of lifetimes on this planet, in this world, what is a few $1 million? The Lord can give something far more valuable, which is what? Eternal bliss and happiness. What price you would put on eternal bliss and happiness? Can you put a price on it? That is what Krishna can give. So what we need is knowledge to know what to ask for. Because a child, if you ask a child, would you like 5 chocolates or these 5 diamonds? What the child will take? Would we consider that very intelligent? No. It's immature, right? We are going to the Lord asking for chocolates in different varieties. actually what we can ask the Lord is, Lord, free me of my pride, envy, anger, greed, illusion, because it's not allowing me to see you. I have so much love for everything else, but I don't know you. My dear Lord, help me. When we pray like this, then we get real value. But we must have knowledge. Just like the child must understand, these 5 diamonds translate into thousands of chocolates. We must understand, what is the different things we can ask from the Lord? Ultimately, what is the best? And that is when we read Srimad Bhagavatam here, we see the prayers of the great personalities and how they pray, we can follow them. Long answer to your question. Okay? Any other questions? You're ready? Ready for the drama? Drama team is ready? Yeah. Okay. So I think we have our drama team ready. Very excited. And then we'll have Damarastikam and then Prashadam. So again, next week we're going to go into each of these in detail. Also next week I'll be distributing Japamala for all of you. So I'll bring some Japamala so all of you will have the chanting beads and bags, and we'll show how to do some chanting. Also, specifically how to do some reading in a practical way, how we can apply that. Also diet, how to do offerings at the home, how to offer foods to the room. So next week we're going to dig into each of these, and also association. Okay? Thank you very much.